Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with Q Macro. That's me, DJ Adams, episode 67. So my goodness me, 67. Whoa! Will we ever make it to episode 100? I think so. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Vincent. You were on super early. That's great. And good morning, Chesh. Good morning, Volker, Morgan, Robert. Good Robertinho. Good morning, howdy to you, Fuad. Good morning as well. It's great to have you. I mean, it's a special. Well, not really special with a small s, maybe a special day, as in it's a public holiday here in the UK. And I thought, well, I'd still do a live stream anyway. I'm meant to do one on Wednesday. As I said last Friday, I'd do one on Wednesday, but I just didn't have time. So busy at the work at the moment. So here we are on Friday. As I say, it's a public holiday. I'm going to do a Code at Home live stream this afternoon as well. But generally, going to take the rest of the day off because I'm pretty tired, actually. Yeah. But anyway, we're all together here. I'm glad you could make it. Good morning, Helmut, Servus, Gregor. It's great to have you on board. So, what have I got to show you this morning? Well, I think probably most of you know everything that's going on. I don't know about you, but I think it's fantastic that people are ramping up with live streams and everything. Max did one yesterday, one on Tuesday with Vitaly. I'm going to do one with Vitaly again in a couple of weeks' time. Marius is coming on as well at some stage, and we've got Tom Young, of course, and Napid, for example, is going to do some live streams, and lots of other people. I think it's fantastic. So the more community live streaming we can get, the better. Fantastic. So yes, also talking of next week is the online conference recap. In fact, if you could, there we go, Volker, you just said that on exactly 1 week prior to recap online, exactly. UI5Con recap, there we go, recap 2020, that's the right recap, not the UI5Con recap. So there we go, there's the recap. So if you haven't found out already about that, there we go, there's the URL, that's super important, because there's some awesome things going on basically a week today. And I think, in fact, that's the reason why next Friday I will not be doing a live stream. I'll hopefully do one during the week instead this time, because I'll be attending a recap. Looking forward to that. Jorge, good morning. Hi to you. Andrew, hello. Greetings to Australia. Sachin, good morning. Fantastic. So there we go. There's recap. Also, I think most of you know about the SAP Community Coding Challenge, which was kicked off last month, or whenever it was, by Tom Young. He had a first challenge, an ABAP challenge, and this time around, and there's a few more days for you to submit a solution. This time around, we're doing a little bit of JavaScript, and specifically, it's related to the Collatz conjecture, which is a beautiful little simple thing. So the idea is that it's not a hard problem to solve, and it's actually quite a nice thing to think about. Taking a starting number, and following the two rules, which is basically if it's even, then divide it by 2, and if it's odd, then multiply it by 3 and add 1. Follow that sequence, and the conjecture is that whatever number you start with, eventually you're going to end up with 1. Now, this problem is not related to proving that conjecture, of course, but it's just exploring that sort of sequence, that Collatz sequence. So have a go. Have a look at that there. Did I paste the thing in? SAP Community Code. Yes, I think I did. IT Operations Unplugged. Message retracted. Ooh, that's exciting. There we go. Mahesh, good morning. Great Mahesh. Great post, by the way, on the VS Code plugin. So in fact, Mahesh, if you can share the URL, then I'll post it there as well. There we go. So Napit, good morning. In fact, Napit, I've just mentioned your live streaming as well, so keep doing that and everything. Brenton, howdy, good morning to you over there, and good morning to Robert in sunny Netherlands. It's not so sunny here, it's a little bit overcast, which is disappointing because I've got my shorts on, got my super futurist terminal shirt on today because Friday. For 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It is a beautiful thing, isn't it, Andrew? That it's a really nice little problem, a problemette. Yeah, I like that. Yes, yeah, exactly, Robert. It's nice to do the recap online, and I may be talking out of turn here, Volker, but basically the general idea is that obviously because we can't travel and everything, we're going to do a recap online. But the presentations are going to be from the awesome heroes from the CAP teams inside of SAP this time around, and then we'll have an in-person event later in the year when this whole thing is sort of over, where the wonderful folks who have submitted sessions, from external perspective, they'll be able to present their sessions and everything. So I think that's. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Volker is saying the same thing. Volker, we are totally in tune today. It's amazing. It's amazing. Leo, good morning to you as well. So good morning. So there we go. Finally, I think the penultimate thing I want to share is, I think you've probably seen this as well. I'm building up some terminal tip blog posts. So if you haven't read those, have a read of those. We'll be playing around slightly with some of the terminal stuff I've been doing. I'd love to get your thoughts on, how much of the terminal you use for SAP Cloud Platform and specifically Cloud Foundry work. I've also been playing around with the new command line interface, the CLI command for the SAP Cloud Platform Cockpit, SAP CP, which is available for if you create a brand new Cloud Platform account, you get assigned to this new feature set B, and that includes access through the API that they've got as well, and there's a CLI for that as a command line interface, and it's quite wonderful. So I've been playing around with that. Maybe we'll look at that next time around. Yes, exactly. The on-site, thank you, Volker. The on-site will be community focused, and the online one next Friday, will be presentations and demos and so on. Some cool stuff from the CAP team, which is like always great to learn from them and to learn from the community as well. So there's the terminal tip blog post stuff. Good morning, Phil. Good morning. Good day to you. Good afternoon. Good evening. Oh my goodness me, that's fantastic. Great to see you all here. Sorry, did I just really scratch my armpit on video? There we go. That's exciting. Don't do that again, DJ. And finally, just let me know. I would love to get your feedback here. I'm starting to work through it. I put a playlist together, HandsOnSAPDev playlist now. Not that you don't know where they are, but I've also been trying to modify the thumbnails so that they're all individually a little bit more sort of identifiable, rather than I've already got to there. Rather than them all look the same, all the thumbnails all the same, all boring, right? I'm trying to make the thumbnails sort of not super unique, but at least distinguishable from one another. So, oh yeah, there's the one, for example, on providing comfort in the terminal. There's a little picture of a terminal there, etc. Let me know what you think, whether that's helpful, and whether there's anything else I should be doing to make them a little bit easier to find, or when you're looking at the YouTube video thumbnails, to pick out which one you want to look at. So let me know. So Gregor, do I know if existing accounts will be migrated to this feature set B? No. Sorry, no means they won't be. No means it doesn't mean I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it's only brand new accounts that are created fresh from scratch that get the feature set B. That may change in the future. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But at the moment, it's only fresh, brand new accounts that get the feature set B. So, if for example, you go ahead and create an account with, your private account, for example, with private email address, then you should get feature set B. Definitely worth trying out if you do get the feature set B, because the SAP CP command line interface command is pretty awesome. Okay, it's still fairly young, so I'm in good contact with the great team that's building that out. So yeah, let me know. So there we go. That's that. So what I want to get to today with you all, also because it's a Friday, I've got a bit of chocolate. Quite nice. And this is the last, Gregor, this is the last bit of the super mega strong, mega espresso blend grind, roast is the word I'm looking for, that you sent me from Beruli. Thank you very much indeed. It's fantastic. Oh yeah, very good. Yeah, there we go. Right, so where we left off last Friday was that I was deploying this workflow. Well, let me just switch scenes now to show you my main scene. I was deploying this workflow definition that we'd got in Web IDE from the file new project from sample application. As you remember, I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to show you the thing here. Employee onboarding extension workflow for Cloud Foundry. So it's a collection of things, and that's this sample onboarding MTA. It's a collection of things for a sort of a typical non-trivial workflow arrangement. Okay, I've just noticed that Mahesh is saying something. Yeah, maybe an image with different concepts that were discussed will be great. Yes. Yes, Mahesh, so thank you. Yes, I mean, I think the images do help, don't they? Yes, so I'll try and put images. Obviously, I need to make sure when I search for images on Google, I make sure I pick the images that are labeled for reuse. You know, I can't use the whatever it is, copyright and all that stuff. But yeah, that's good. So that image of the VT100 terminal, I got that from Wikipedia, which is great, Wikipedia Commons. I do have quite a throughput, Gregor. Yes, I drink a lot of coffee. Yeah, I do indeed. Good morning, Michelle. Yes, I do. So basically, what I'd done last Friday, and it failed, remember? I deployed it. And what we're trying to do is just use a little bit of this to explore what a workflow definition, but more precisely or more specifically, what a user task definition, a custom UI for a user task looks like in the Cloud Foundry context. And what I'd done is I'd said, okay, well, I haven't got a success factors backend here, and I don't want to set one up. So let's just add this exclusive gateway here to say, whoop, we're just going to completely bypass all of this stuff here and go straight down to the first user task. That's a little bit large. Let's go a bit smaller. The first user task, which is change or confirm equipment. There's a little person there. That's the user task. By the way, Gregor, I'm just thinking, is that a big throughput? I've still got another bag. You sent me 3 wonderful bags. So I've gone through 2, and I've got one in the freezer. So there we go. So yeah, I've not drunk all of them yet. So he says drinking some more coffee. So we want to jump straight down there because we're not interested in doing the service task. We want to look at the UI task. And so what I've done in here was say, okay, well, details. Let's just get rid of any sort of reference to context variables that might not be there. And I've assigned myself as the recipient for this user task, these instances of this user task here. The user interface is an SAP UI5 component, i.e. a custom UI. And where is it? It's this thing here, this confirm equip, okay, which we'll look at shortly. Am I losing my voice here? And I think that was it. So we've deployed this whole thing, this sample onboarding MTA as an MTA, which includes 1, 2, 3 UI5 components, and also the onboarding workflow definition itself, okay? And that's all described in the MTA YAML. Now, the problem I'd had on Friday was that in order to sort of quickly bypass this and say, well, I just want to go straight there, I had to specify an exclusive gateway where this one here, the bypass one, is the default flow. But of course, you have to specify a condition for the non-default flow. And I'd said context.x or something equals x or 1. But of course, when we deployed it, it said, well, there isn't a context.x. There isn't a variable called x in the context. So that's wrong. So all I've done is, and I've done this just before, I have, if you're looking at onboarding the sample data, in the sample input, there is this property called user ID. So I'm using that to say, basically, if the user ID is X, then go down here. It's never going to be X, so it's always going to go down this flow here. So that's a good way of doing it. So I'm going to close that. I know I've modified that for some reason. I want to close that without saving. But I'm not going to deploy it because it takes a while anyway, and it's all ready. So it's all ready for us in here. Continue working. There we go. So we've got the monitor workflow definitions on board. As you can see, I think it was like version 3 last time, maybe 4, I don't know. But I've deployed a couple of versions just to test a few things. So that's where we're going to start out from. And with a bit of luck, we will get to, well, a bit of luck in a following wind. We'll dig in to the custom UI to see how it works and to see what the component parts are. Okay, just to sort of remind ourselves, or just to sort of get a rough idea, like a map of where we're going to go. Here's the confirm equip folder, right? Which is referred to in the MTA and everything. It's been deployed, and it contains a grunt file for the build. Okay, we're not going to do that. Look at that now. It contains a package.json. Okay, which is for the grunt file. Let's just look at all the files, make sure we're familiar with everything here. There's no stone left unturned. We've got the XS app, okay, which is the equivalent of, now who can say this in the chat here? What is the equivalent to this file in the Neo environment? Let me know in the chat. Basically, this is the definition of, amongst other things, of the different routes that point to, for example, destinations or services that can be consumed by the running UI5 component. So here we've got, for the confirm equip, we've got in our xsapp.json, we've got this routes array of 2 routes. Neo app, Chesh, spot on, Neo app, exactly. I think everybody knows that, right? But well done for Chesh for getting that first. Instead of employing onboarding, you need a copy restock workflow. I do. Did you know I did a beer rating workflow in discovering SCP workflow a long time ago, 2018. My goodness me. Neoapp.json, Gregor, exactly. Robertinho, oh yes, that's true. But the beer stock one was quite good. It was quite useful, and it looked like that. I mean, that's like ridiculous. Open image in new tab. They've got quite good recommended beers to Subliminal. All these recommended beers here. Anyway, so there's the discovering SCP workflow thing. We get rid of that. So we've got a route that will send or allow us to connect to the BPM, the workflow API endpoint, okay, which is basically defined as a service, which is quite exciting and interesting. We'll dig into that hopefully another time. Okay, and the endpoint in that service, if you remember in the service keys, there's all sorts of different things like the UAA.URL and the client ID and the client secret and everything. Service is also defined in there, and the endpoint as well. Remember the endpoint, the URLs, the different endpoints for the API endpoints. That's the workflow REST URL endpoint. In fact, when we have a look at it, we go look at the service bindings, or in fact, when we look at the services, we've still got a bit of time. Services. There's so much fun, so much to discover. Oh my goodness me. There we go. Services. Let's look at the services. Where are we? Workflow. There we go. And if we have a look at the service key, oh, here we go, that'll do. See, workflow REST URL. There we go. And we get all these other things as well here. SAP.cloud.service as well. That sort of features in there as well. ComSAP BPM workflow, ComSAP BPM workflow. It all sort of fits together, right? It's all coming together like a plan. So there's that. And we've also got basically anything else, right? So if the route starts, or if the route, what happens is the parent name, ComSAP BPM workflow onboard equip or whatever it's called, gets chopped off, and then it's like, right, okay, how do we match this against the routes? Well, if it starts with a path section called BPM workflow runtime, then send all the stuff to here. We've looked at, this is the app router, right? These are route definitions for the app routers. We played around with the app router in episodes, whatever it was, 50 something. So we sort of understand what's going on here, and of course look at the authentication type as well. I think that's default. We may not need to specify that because the default authentication type for the routes is XSUA anyway, I think, rather than none. But anyway, and anything else, okay? Anything else? Anything between the start and the end gets mapped to where the HTML5 apps repo runtime service. Right, that's to grab the artifacts of the UI5 custom app, custom component, right? In fact, if we have a look here, CF target, we're in the workflow one already. That's cool. So if we say CF HTML5 list, this is basically listing the collection of components or the collection of artifacts for apps in the HTML5 repo runtime instance that we've got. So Cloud SAP, ComSAP Cloud Workflow samples on board, equip. So it gets it from there, right? We talked about this last week and the week before. We've got this HTML5 apps repo service, an instance of that, the runtime service, okay, which is this thing here. So this is basically go and get the artifacts like the components, the views, the model definitions, and all that stuff from there. Okay, so that's that. And in here, we've got a regular sort of component. We've got a components.js, and we'll look at that in debug mode, hopefully. We've got the view there, which has got confirm equipment. It's got some other fragment there as well, and all normal UI5 stuff, okay? So, and there's the manifest as well. So that's that. We've got here the monitor workflow, right? And we've got this, have we got any instances right now? Start new instance? No, show instances. There we go. We've got no instances. So I've been playing around with, here we go. Do we want to do this? Yes. In my scripts directory, which now is quite large, and I've been playing around this, I want to share this at some stage properly. But basically, if we look at the workflow instance start, okay, I've got it all documented as well. And it goes down here, and we've got the little function for getting an access token. We've got a function for selecting a workflow definition. We don't specify one. We've got a function for starting a new instance, and then blah, 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 blah. So we can actually do this now. Say the workflow instance start. It'll ask us, first of all, so we can set the context, because we need, if we look at this thing, oops. If we look at this here, CF target, VICF target, it'll source the right sort of script environment, cpenv. So if you look at cpenv workflow, for example, there, that's got some various exports for the right user access and authorization route URL, and also the workflow API route that's relevant for that particular thing here. So I'm trying to figure out in my mind what's the best way of sort of managing all these different endpoints and environments and things like that. So there, that's that. So if we say here, instance start, it's going to go and ask us for the targets, and then it'll say, okay, well, let me go and find the workflow definitions in that particular endpoint there. I've only got one, onboard version 5, which we've just seen here. I'm going to select that one. Specify the JSON context. I can specify, for example, user ID, which is what we need here, to be bananas. And it's going to start one new instance. There we go. So if we now bring that down to the bottom and refresh, there we go. Well, that's the same as doing start new instance here, right? But it's a little bit more exciting because we can control it and script it, okay? You can actually specify the number of instances you want to start. And I played around yesterday with trying to hammer the number of instances and see if I could reach that limit in the trial of 250. It was quite easy. So onboarding bananas, there we go. So that's that. So we've got a running instance, okay? And we've got here this user ID bananas. That's the context. And we can see we've gone straight now to the user task, confirm or change equipment for DJ available, okay? So let's make sure we understand as well the relationship between a workflow definition, a workflow instance, and also a task instance, okay? So the workflow definition ID is onboard, which is quite nice to have a non-GUID for the definition ID, right? An instance of that definition, workflow definition, we've just created, C897, and if we have a look there, we can see starting one new instance C897, that's the one there. Okay, and if we have a look at the tasks, look, we got the task confirm, the instance ID of the task, not of the workflow instance, but of the task itself is C8E3. Look at show tasks here. The instance ID of the task is C8E3, related to the workflow instance C879C, which is related to the workflow definition. I still think this monitor workflow app, the way you can jump between task instances and workflow instances and workflow definitions, it's a really beautiful design, very well executed, I think. Anyway, that's that. So we've got this task instance waiting for us. Okay, it's waiting for me. There we go. qmacro plus workflowcodejam@gmail.com. So now let's figure out how it works and what it does. If we now go to home here, and there we go. There's one in my inbox, and there it is. Now I'm going to bring up the debugging, and I've got it in a separate window. That, of course, I did with this sort of doc side. I've got doc separate there, undock into separate window because I want to sort of embrace the whole debugging process. And I've already got this component loaded, but let's just close that for a second and look at the network. Let's clear the network tabs here, and I'm going to go back to this thing, and I'm going to refresh. Okay, and I'm going to bring this one back up here. Okay, and we've got a ton of stuff. We've got some batch requests here. In fact, if I turn on in the use large request rows, we can have a look to see what's been retrieved. So first of all, we've got some what look like OData calls to the inbox task management mechanism, which we're not going to look at. There's one there, there's one there, and there's one there. But then, based upon the results of what it's got from here, okay, it knows that this particular workflow instance, due to the definition, should be presented in the My Inbox with which UI. How does it know how to present that instance? Does it present the instance with a generic component, just in case there's nothing defined, or what? And there's a connection in the instance of the user task to the definition of the component that should be loaded. Okay, and the result of that says basically, okay, I'm now going to go for and look at the URL there in the path ComSAP Cloud Workflow Samples Onboard Equip /i18n, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so what I'm going to do is onboard equip. I'm going to put in the filter here onboard equip. There we go. So everything is onboard equipped, so we can sort of get rid of the large request rows now because you can see more things. So there you go. So these are all the requests that have just been made in order to surface this stuff here, right? In order to surface the stuff that's in the detail view of this master detail. Okay. So just to say it again, the task instance has a reference to what component should be loaded. Okay, that's why, for example, you can have different views for different types of tasks, and they'll all look different. Okay, so now if we go back and have a look to see what we've got loaded, it tries to load some internationalization files, and there's no English specific ones, no UK or GB English or English. So it finally falls back on the beautiful sort of internationalization, sort of, graceful degradation type thing in UI5. It says, okay, well, let's just give me the default one, i18n properties, which it finds. Okay. Now, if we have a look, if we just have a quick look at CF HTML5 list, we saw before, in fact, I've got this other thing called CFT, CF truncated. That's just a wrapper around CF that she'll call whatever I call and just truncate it. So we've got the ComSAP Cloud Workflow Samples Onboard Equip. They're the third one. So we can say CFT HTML5 get ComSAP Cloud Workflow Samples Onboard Equip. Hope I've typed that in right. And we should see all the different artifacts that are in the HTML5's app repo instance. So there we go. We've got internationalization. We've only got the default, the fallback i18n.properties. And if we looked in this the web IDE, that's all we've got as well in that confirm equip web app, right? It all hopefully is fitting together here. So this is all the stuff that's available to the inbox mechanism to be pulled in to show the user task. Okay, so there's the XSApp.json. There we go. So that's it. There's the views there, the confirm equipment, and that fragment there, and blah blah blah. Okay, fine. So let's bring that back down again. So what does it need to do? It needs, of course, to I think it's already loaded the component. Let's just let me just refresh this. Refresh this. I'm basically refreshing the view here. My inbox. I'm refreshing this thing. Okay. Come on. There we go. And there it is. Component preload. That's more like it. Okay. So it had already loaded some of that already. Okay. So there's the complete list. There we loaded the preload, the component, the model, the manifest, and so on, and all the different things here. And then, of course, the most important part of this whole custom UI for this user task instance is the component, which we've sort of seen before, right? This is what we've seen very briefly in the Web IDE. So let's start debugging and see what the heck it does. Does anyone know how to get rid of the i89 404s without defining those files? I remember a conversation about that, Helmut, a long time ago. And I think the answer was no. And also, I think, I'm just thinking aloud, is not the nature of graceful degradation such that it will leave around or cause not founds to happen because it's looking for something? No, I've not got that one. How about this one? No, I've got not got that one. How about this one? Yeah, I've got that one. Okay, cool. So the whole process, I don't know. I mean, you could have a specific one, not a fallback one, and then use the SAP language parameter to specify that one, but I'm not sure that's a good solution. Interesting, we got some amazing UI5 folks here on the channel, so maybe they can chime in as well on the channel, on the chat. So we've got this now, so let's have a look what it does. Let's go into the sources. Now, what I've got here, by the way, if you're interested, is in my shortcuts, in my preferences, I've got enable control 1 to 9 to shortcut to switch panels. So I can switch between, for example, the network panel where I'm on now, and the console, and the sources, with all these different things here. So let's open component. In fact, let's just open it here. There we go. We've got ComSAP Cloud Workflow Samples Onboard Equip. And we've got our component. So let's close that again. And this is it. So let's just see what happens in it. So let's just sort of stop, I don't know, here, startup params. Okay, and now I'm going to go across to here and just refresh this bit. And now we've got a breakpoint. So what's happened is that the task instance information has been loaded. It obviously pre-selected in the master list is only one, so it selects that one, so it loads the detail for that. It tries to load, it loads the component and executes it. So that's where we are. Okay, so there's good conversation. Helmut, customer complained because admins think there is an error. Yes, the error is that admins are thinking it's an error. 404 is a valid response, right? Try to give language, Bibu, yeah, exactly. Try to give language in URL. That's what I was saying before. Volker, don't know of any way per default. What I frequently do is take care of that in CI/CD. Interesting. Yes. Okay. But basically, even though red is danger type thing in the debugging console, 404 is not a bad thing. I don't think we should be scared of 404s. I think it's a re-education of the admin folks. That's what I think, because it's a holiday. So there we go. So we've got the startup parameters now. What happens when the My Inbox app loads one of these components, loads one of these custom UI components to display the details of the task instance, is that it passes it some startup parameters. I don't know how many people here have played around with the startup parameters when you load a component, but they're super powerful. And what's happening here is that we've got component data. Okay, so you can basically, when you instantiate a component, you can say, and have this data. And what the My Inbox puts in that little present, in that little parcel of data. Okay, well, we'll have a look, shall we? Let's just jump over that function call there and have a look at the startup parameters. We've got that there, but let's just jump into the console. Okay, let's get rid of all those things there. Startup parameters. We've got a ton of stuff. Okay, and this is really important to understand when we want to start building our own custom UI, which we will do, right? Not in this episode, but we want to understand an existing one first of all to see the sorts of things that we have to do, and then to see the sort of thing that we get. Leo, good call. 404 is not a bad thing. T-shirt. I'm gonna spend all my money on T-shirts. I think. Yeah, 404 is not a bad thing. It's no bad thing. Yes. I need to write a list of these. I keep forgetting which T-shirts I want to have next. But in the component data that's passed to this component, once it's brought into the world to display this user task instance in the detail, one of the things it gives is a reference to the inbox API. And the inbox API, which is documented, I'm not going to look for the documentation now, but it's documented. It gives us the ability to add buttons, for example, right? That's the reason why down here we can't see it yet, but because it's not happened yet, right? That's interesting, right? We've not got to the part where the inbox API add action has been called yet. So down here, where you'd expect the buttons like confirm or reject or whatever, approve, they're not there yet, right? How cool is that? Actually, that was unexpected, but that's really cool. So we've got the that's a nice blue thing. What's going on there? We've got the add action, we've got the disable action, all these different things to manage the frame within which this UI component exists. Because of course the button is not part of the detail view. Okay, the button is part of the parent of the My Inbox app. Okay, so the My Inbox app has to give the UI component, the task instance displayer component, the ability to say, please put a button in your bar there for accept or reject or confirm or whatever. So that's that. That's the add action. We'll see that in action. Let's see what I did there shortly. So we've also got that. We've got, what else have we got here? We've got the inbox internal. That's a bit boring. And we've got all these different parameters, right? And we've got the task model, right? The task model is super important because that gives us access to the data in the instance of the task that we're supposed to be displaying, right? So the task model. So there we go. If we look at the data, and this is a piece of data which is an object, not OData written wrong. Okay, one of my mini rants. So this is not. Well, I suppose it was originally OData, but this is data that's an object. OData, not OData. See what I'm not sure what I'm saying here. Anyway, so we've got all the information, right, about the user task instance. So, for example, there's the task title: confirm or change equipment for DJ. The task definition ID is user task 1. That is from. Where is it? Where's the thing? Where's the workflow? There we go. Come on, there. If we go down here, loading, change or confirm equipment, user task 1. That's that. Okay, so let's go back to my inbox and bring this back again. All these different things here. You can imagine, right? And the status is ready. Okay, we could have a look at the status in the API, but basically there is in the API hub. If we look at the API hub, the workflow resources, we've got in the section for workflow API for Cloud Foundry, we've got this task instances thing here, right? We've got all this stuff for task instances. That's what we're talking about here. Right, so let's go back here. Proprietary medium, etc., etc., etc. So that's fine. And what else do we have? The task model. That's what we were talking about before. So there we go. So we go back to sources. And there's all sorts of things. It goes and gets the data. And the most important thing is it goes and gets the instance ID. Now, before we do anything else, I'm going to hit the escape to bring up the drawer, the console drawer. There we go. Escape, 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 toggle to drawer, which is really useful. We've got the access to the console here. But, we've got the drawer as well. So we can say, I'm going to grab this by DJ equals startup parameters. So we can grab a reference to that so we can use it later. Okay. Always useful to do. So let's go get rid of that. And it goes through all these things here. And then, right, it goes and gets, can we just make this a little bit, it goes and gets down here, context data, context model. Let's just jump down to there. What's going on? Pausing debug. Oh, there we go. Okay, press the wrong button. It goes and defines a new JSON model. And what's the URL of this JSON model? Com, SAP Cloud, workflow, samples, onboard, equip, BPM workflow, runtime. We've recognized that. V1, task instances, task ID, context. So what it does is it creates a JSON model pointing at the workflow API. This one, V1, task instances, task instance ID, context. Okay, the task instance ID is the long GUID that we talked about before, and it goes and gets the detail of the context, right? Okay, so let's bring that back. Now, note that we're down here already. We've defined the context model, but at the moment, of course, we can see here in the network, the context. I wish this pop-up thing would go away. I'm not sure how to get rid of this sort of tooltip thing here, but I want to point the last record in that list, context. Can you see the status is pending because the call has not actually completed yet? Okay, and that's why if we go back to the sources, that's why when we do a context model get data, we don't get anything there yet because it's not completed, right? But further down, we've got this thing here to do with some products and loaded some initial data. This is to do with the confirm equipment specific stuff here. Then down here, we've got this context model, and we're going to attach a function on the request completed event. Okay, so let's do that instead. Okay, so we'll just jump down to there and then say go, 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 right? And now we can see in the network tab down there, context, we've now got a status of 200, not pending. So it's actually completed. And if we have a look at the detail here, the response, we can see that it's gone to blah, 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 ComSAP Cloud, blah, 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 BPM workflow runtime, V1 task instances, C8E3, that's the task instance we saw, / context, okay? So we've got that information. And the context data is the context that I specified just here, in fact. Oh, I think I specified it in a prompt, right? User ID equals banana, right? So that's that context data, user ID bananas. So that's the context for the task instance. Are we still okay? Oh, Volker, you got to run. Okay, see you all at recap. See you all at recap online. Fantastic. Yes. Oh, it's conversation. I'm getting so excited. I missed the conversation here. It's possible. I think in the latest versions you have fallback and supported internationalization calls. Okay, have a look. So yeah, maybe there's been an update since the last conversation. So where are we? We've now retrieved the context information for the user task instance, right? And we've got that. And this is the thing that's going to be then used, for example, context data.task, task title, task priority, task status. We grab all this stuff from the context data. And also, if we have a look in the network here, we've got the confirm equipment view, for example. If we look at the response there, we can see that we've got various bindings to /task with the title. Let's make this a bit smaller. And we've got the created on and the description and the priority state, which is a state property of the object status, which makes it a different color, for example, depending on the state, right? So that's what's happening here. So we've got in the sources here, we can see we've got the priority state being set and so on. Okay, blah, 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 blah. So all that stuff will then be data that is bound through data binding to the different controls, to the different properties in the controls in the view, like normal UI5, right? So all cool. But the most exciting thing is that we then, once we've done that, once we've got all our dates together, in fact, let's call this startup parameters, inbox API, get description. Have we still got that DJ? Yes, we have. DJ is there. Cool. So once we got that, we use the reference to the inbox API to go and get the description of the task. Okay, so that's done that. Let's put a breakpoint there and jump down. And we've got the data description, which is the buddy assigns appropriate, whatever it is, right? Appropriate, why can't I scroll? Appropriate equipment to the new hire. So that's the description of the user task, right? And then finally we define a button here, which is, I mean, this is from the sample application. And if you ask me, it's a little bit untidy, but it's really useful for us because it tells us at least what we have to do. Okay, Gregor. Okay, see you next week, Gregor. What time is it? Oh, 8:44. There we go. That's fine. So we then use the inbox API to add an action, and we point to that button. Okay, so this thing here, if we change this, if we say, for example, button text confirm, hooray, save that. Okay, now let's run it to completion. I missed that out. I ran it too early. But anyway, we've now got the button confirm. I missed out the text. Confirm there. Now, what we can do is we can use this reference to dj.inbox API to define our own button as well. Okay, so why don't we say here inbox API, and what's the signature? Here we go. Add action. There we go. Add inbox API dot add action. We'll define our own button. Action is some sort of text. Let's say bananas, and we'll say label bananas. Oops, I've got a quote there. And we'll say as well, type reject. Yeah, reject. And then we'll have a function that's called when that button is pressed. So we'll say function something, and then we'll just set the debugger. Okay. So we're in the context of the my inbox. I've got a reference to the startup parameters, which gives us access to the inbox API, which gives us access to the add action function. And therefore, I'm going to call add action to add a button. At the moment, what have we got? We've got this confirm button, and that's it. That's the only custom button that's been added by this custom UI. Okay, so now let's go back to here. Hope this is going to work. True. Okay, that's interesting. True. If you look down here, bananas. You see, we're using the inbox API and we're using the add action to put the buttons that we need for this particular type of user task in the button bar. So now if I press bananas, paused in debugger. Why is it paused in debugger? Because of course we put a debugger statement in the function, which is just there, debugger. So now we can do all sorts of things, okay? But we're not going to do that now. So really, the last thing we want to do is let's just continue that thing there. Nothing's going to happen. So the last thing we want to look at before this live stream is over is what actually is supposed to happen. Okay, the whole idea is that if you look at a typical user task display, a custom task, what's supposed to happen when you press confirm? Well, it's supposed to probably update something to do with that user task instance. And in this case, if you have a look at the code, in this case, when you press confirm, right, which is linked to trigger complete, blah, 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 on positive action, on button pressed, and the on button pressed here is trigger complete, okay? On button pressed is a function that goes blah, 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 and then trigger complete, okay? Again, I would like to tidy up of this. Maybe when we write it, we'll write it a lot neater. But the interesting thing is that the trigger complete uses an AJAX call to do, in this thing here, two things, right? It calls, and this is a classic Neo style, right? Neo style flow where you go and get a CSRF token, okay, from the workflow API, and then use that token to actually make a call to there we go, scroll bar, to go and update the status of the user task to completed, okay? And it also updates the context as well, okay? So this is what's happening, and it's a little bit difficult to read here, to be honest, if I'm perfectly honest. But when we write our own custom task UI, we'll write a beautifully neat one. So it does that. Now, the interesting thing is that you don't actually need an XSRF token because of the way that the endpoints are protected now through OAuth, not through basic authentication. So actually, the XSRF token retrieval and usage is irrelevant. So what this does is going to update this task. So why don't we try this manually? It's the last thing we'll do. We've got 10 minutes. Let's try and do this and pick out the bits, because there's a lot of code here, a lot of comments, and I don't know why. I have no idea why these comments are on one word a line. But anyway, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, well, I'll do an AJAX call to ComSAP Cloud Workflow Samples Onboard Equip, right, which is the root of all the different relative URLs in the context of this custom task UI. Then specifically, I want to make a call to the BPM workflow runtime, which is we've defined as a root in the XSApp.json, okay, which is going to lead us down to the BPM workflow service, okay, authenticated with XSUAA, right? The authentication type was XSUAA, and it's going to call v1 task instances and give it the task ID, and it's going to make a patch call. So let's have a look to see what that is. v1 task instances, task instance ID patch updates a user task's status, its properties, and its context, which is obviously what we want to do when somebody presses the button in the My Inbox, right? So what we've got at the moment, yes, what we've got at the moment is status task. Have I got something to show that here? Let's have a look. I'm just having a look to see list instance list. No, let's do it. Let's do it in a nicer way. Sort of here. Let's go back here and have a look at this thing. Go here, My Inbox site, portal site, and let's have a look at the workflow instance right now. The instance is in status running, okay, and the instance is onboarding bananas, and we've got the context here, which is not very much. There we go. So why don't we change this in here by making a call? So $Ajax, will this work? I have no idea. Will this work? Let's have a look. Let's do it manually. Do everything manually in the debug console, and then you learn a lot. That's what I do anyway. So Ajax, we want to make a call to the URL, which is going to be, let's copy this. It's going to be the reference to that root, and then specifically the task instances, and the task instance is show tasks. The task instance is, I'm going to grab it from here so we can see the connection between what we're seeing in the monitor and what we're seeing here in the debug in the custom task UI. Task instances whammo there's the URL. We want to make a call to that. The method is going to be patch, right, which is basically update some specific properties. The content type is application JSON. Content type type application JSON. Will this work? Am I going to forget something? Probably, especially as it's almost at the end. And then we just send the data. We're not going to send a token in the headers because we don't need one actually. So data JSON.stringify so what do we want to send? We want to send data text. There we go, status complete. Why don't even say status? I always remember that because it's the US spelling, which looks completely wrong. Only one L, but that's why I remember it. Status cancel. Let's just change the status. And can we change anything else? What is in? Let's just put that there for a second because I want to see DJ dot inbox API task model. There we go, task model. Let's look at that there. What have we got in here? No, DJ. Let's look at that. DJ. There. I want to see what else we've got in the task model. OData. There we go. OData. The task title. Okay, let's change the task title as well. Okay, there we go. Dum. And the task. What was it? Task. What's the capitalization of that? Did anyone remember? Task title. Okay, camel case. Okay, there we go. So let's go here and go to the start and put that there, and go to the end and put here task title. Will this work? Will this work? Now let's see what happens. Let's go to the network. I bet this is not going to work, right? Let's go to the network and see what happens. Why is it not doing anything? Ajax URL. Data. Oh, string of. Ah, there we go. Because we're not finished yet. There we go. Oh my goodness me! It works. Batch request. Well, that was our thing there, right? That was our call. Use large request rows. That was the call we just made. So now let's find out. Let's go back to here in the last few minutes. Let's find out. Refresh this one. Oh, we need to actually we need to continue this thing here. Wait a minute. Where are we? Sources. Here we go. Are we doing that? What's going on here? What's going on? It did work, didn't it? Console. Yeah, it worked. So let's go back here. Refresh. Paused in debugger. Let's continue. Come on. Did I not change the right one? Let's go back here. Back here. Come on, what's going on? My inbox. I think I'm going a bit too fast myself here. That didn't. Oh, I thought that did work. So why didn't that work? Let's just try that again. Will this work? Patch. We patched that to status cancelled. That was correct, wasn't it? Let's get that online for a second. PPM workflow runtime. Status was low. Status was lowercase. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Was it all lowercase? Well spotted, Helmut. Well spotted. Where is it? Status. Ajax call. Status, lowercase. Right, here we go. I think I've messed myself up now. Okay, but that should have worked. Unprocessable entity. That's quite exciting. Trigger complete. Anyway, unprocessable entity. But now, if we go back here, let's go back to workflow instances. It's still running. Oh wait, no, wait. What? Of course. Show tasks. Yeah, I'm slightly confused here. Why does it say unprocessable entity? Because I wasn't in the right context. Let's go to, tell you what, let's do this. Ajax call there, and then one final thing, confirm array. There we go. Right, Ajax call there. We're now in that. Let's just try that. Patch. Yes. Has that worked? Continue. Okay, fine. And debugger. I'll get rid of this. I think I've messed myself up here. Confirm or change equipment. Okay, I'm going to have to admit defeat here. Oh well. It's 2 minutes to go. What I'll do is I'll have a quick look at this. Well, I'll look at this on Monday actually. But the whole idea was that we've discovered between us the sorts of things that we have to do. We have to go and get the data from the context of the instance of the task, of the instance of the workflow definition. We can use the inbox API to put buttons in the bottom here. There's that hooray thing. Put buttons in the bottom. And then once we're ready, we can go and make the call to the workflow API, Cloud Foundry workflow API, to update the task. Maybe I got the wrong URL or something. To update the task. Yes, maybe it was already executed. Yes, maybe I couldn't put it straight from ready to cancelled. Yeah, I'm just, obviously I was just making it up. Maybe that was what it was. but we've touched a little bit on each of the 3 really important parts of what we need to do in a custom task UI. We need to go and get the data, we need to go and fill out the buttons that we need, and then we need to process what happens when somebody presses a button and somebody interacts with that component, with the view and the view controller and everything else, to maybe specify some data, like here, confirm, add some equipment, put that in the context of the workflow instance, and change the status of the user task to complete or whatever. I wonder if just one more try, oh, I've got rid of the debug now. Anyway, okay, so yes, I've got to go as well. So thank you very much indeed. That was a little bit, a little bit crazy, but I hope it's okay for you. Thank you, Chesh. Last 10 minutes was awesome. Nice cliffhanger, yes, cliffhanger, another t-shirt. So I hope you have a lovely weekend. If you're in the UK, have a lovely bank holiday, a public holiday. I will be, hopefully. Yeah, I'll see you all next week. Bye for now.